Recording. All right, guys. So, Monday meeting. Anybody have a good news today?
Yes, last week was a fairly good week.
You got a double close. That's always a good week.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Thank you again to Tim and Abraham and Joanne for all the and I don't say this lightly for all the hard work that went into this one.
Yeah, for those of
Thank
you
you.
who don't know, this was a triple closing. This is only the second time I've ever do a triple close in my entire life. It was pretty crazy. And the last week, we literally had to meet every morning and hash out any kind of last minute issues to get it to close on time. Unfortunately, the buyer seller, we'll just say that person, didn't have their stuff together enough to get their things moved out. Even though we had what was it? Put the house under contract beginning of March, and it's now May.
Yep.
Yeah, 2 months to pack and get ready and prepare. 2 months, anybody could pack, right? Guess not. Anyways, we closed it, got paid, so that's a good thing. And if we hit
Yep.
up the wife, we'll get a good review out of this, I hope. Anybody else
Yep.
have some good news? I know um, Zach had a closing. He's not on. But yeah, he closed out his friend's house downtown. We're doing a campaign on that, so we're getting some leads off of those as well. We should get some leads off the 1.75 million out in Gilbert here shortly too. You're having two open houses on that one or two VIP tours?
Uh, Probably right now it looks like maybe we may end up with three before we actually do the open houses, and then probably at least one, maybe two.
Gotcha. So yeah, for the VIP tours, what I like to do, what really drives people crazy and makes them want to put in bids, I try and schedule them all in the same hour so they all
Uh
overlap and they see other people looking.
huh.
Nothing drives price like someone else may put in an offer before you, even on a
Yeah.
VIP tour. Like, we only do this for a few people, and then they show up and there's five other couples waiting. They're like, holy crap, we got to get her off in yesterday. So, anyway, another pro tip there. Any other good news before we kick this off? All right, let's go into the market. So, of course, we have a crazy market still. Our actives are still anemically low at 5,000. We're supposed to be in double digits. As you can see, even a year ago or 2 years ago, we're supposed to be approaching 20,000 listings right about this point. It's usually about May was when things start filtering down. But if they start filtering down even more, we won't have any homes to sell. Our days on market is less than 30 days. That's average. I know some that are disappearing before they even hit the market. Our months of supply, which is kind of funny, excluding under contract, is zero as of today. It's typically 10 days or less, depending on the price range. But yeah, the median or average is around zero right now. I've never seen that before. I think that's a new record. Just to show you, Comfort Demand Index kind of spiked up over December holidays when our rates kind of hit an all-time low mortgage, and then everything just kind of tapered off, and it's still kind of leveling off. Mostly, like, we're thinking it's probably fatigue from not being able to find anything. Supply index, as you can tell, keeps going down, and we had one crazy uptick in Tempe. I don't know what that's about. Maybe they found some houses to sell, or maybe people are just done holding out for waiting for the bottom to happen, because we're pretty much at the bottom now, as you can see in supply. There's just not much lower you can go. Uh, let's see, active listings count, like we were talking about, just in comparison. This blue line's 2017 normal market. Around this time of year, you should have about 16,000 listings. We have 4,000. Less than, what's that? I can't even do the math in my head, but it's a lot less. What should be? This is for Maricopa. Also for Maricopa, our 6-month moving average, it has taken a crazy spike upwards, but it's starting to taper off just a tiny bit. Hardly noticeable. We'll see if that trend continues or not. But yeah, as opposed to what it was just a year ago, Craziness. 163 to 200 square foot. For Greater Phoenix and Maricopa, just to show you some more of the craziness. Here's canceled year to date canceling listings. It goes, of course, from week 1 to week 52 up through the graph. So at the end of the year in 2010, we had 37,000 cancelings. Last year we only had 9. This year we're trucking even lower. We're probably going to have less than 2. Why they cancel, we'll never know. But very low price. The other crazy thing is closings per month. We had a big, huge spike here in April, May, which is why we're almost to anemic level of almost no inventory. So if you are in this price range between 200 and 400,000, over 50% are getting over list price. So basically over half. That's even with people putting their homes on the market at a crazy price already because they know it's a crazy market. So that's where we're at. Under $1 million, not very many people are getting over list price. There's still 30-40% in the mill to mill and a half. So that's good news for our new listing. Month supply, as we're talking about, very, very anemic. Craziness should happen right around that March, May. We get a big, huge spike. Month supply never happened, unfortunately, this year. Days on market. This is kind of fun, interesting new graph I just came across that this is how many change in the days per on market. Typically around, springtime, it's supposed to spike above. Just because we have a lot coming on the market. Never had a spike in 2020. Never had a spike in 2021. We had kind of the opposite. Average days on market are way less than what they should be for the market for the year. This is kind of an interesting one. Listing success rate last 90 days. Everybody's above 90% pretty much. You got to dig way down into cities like Wickenburg. PV, well, PV is PV. Waddell, surprisingly, and Tonopah. A few of those just didn't sell for whatever reason. And a New Year River. But majority, yeah. They list it, they sell it. Price changes. This is another interesting graph. Usually we have a lot of price changes over time that go negative. That's your typical. Here's our typical market. Here's where we are. Almost nobody's decreasing price. Majority of people are increasing price. So we have more people increasing than we do changing the price than the downward trend. Just keeping tabs on our trustee sales and foreclosures. Still, if anybody's asking about foreclosures, we have an anemic number of foreclosures, less than 100 in the whole month of April. That's low. We're supposed to be in several thousand like we are here back in 2012. But for whatever reason, investors are picking them up before then, so they never get to the trustee sale. Just for doing rentals, because we haven't done them for a while, just throwing, don't reload. Crap. Sorry, please stand by. But basically, if you look at the graph, or the map, it's kind of interesting. Majority of homes that are around $1 a square foot are almost all on the west side and south side. Uh-oh, I lost my map. 1 second, loading again. 3-month average, a lot of them are actually still around $1.40, $1.50, which is surprising. Our median is still around about $1.10 because it's got to take into account all of Maricopa. And here we are back to our map again. Sorry about that. Let's take out the crazy mega mansions. And come on. So as you see, we're right basically anything west of the 17, we're still around that $1.20. Kind of a good rule of thumb if you're helping out renters or if you have people are looking around their home. Everybody on the east side and north of the 10, most of them are in the $1.50 to $2, which is kind of an interesting, really easy rule of thumb. Tempe, of course, is the outlier because it's, ASU. But then once you start getting back out here into Mesa, they start dropping down to the $1.10s again. And very far side of Chandler, Gilbert, same thing, $1.10. AJ, I don't know what's going on in this part of AJ, but $1.50. That was a shocker. So yeah, east side, southeast valley, northeast valley, you're definitely going to be getting over $1.50, $1.80 even in some areas. Just as a recap, everything under 10,000 square feet in Maricopa, we only have less than 3,000 listings. All of Maricopa. Not much to choose from. Also, sales per month, still record highs, still pumping out 6,000 of them. Who knows where they'll come from? And here come your May, June. And price per square foot is still on an upward scaling curve. Anybody have any questions about the market so far?
Do you remember off the top of your head? Last week you said, I forget if you said it was 25% or if it was 34 or maybe 43%. It was the percentage of houses that are being sold as cash offers. You remember that off the top, or maybe anyone remembers that from last week off the top of your head? I could just go through last week's notes if you don't.
You can probably watch the recording, but I think it was around the 30 to 40.
Right, that does sound more realistic than 25.
But
I'll find out
on that.
Right, okay.
Don't remember.
I was showing a house yesterday that was listing for 310, and the highest offer they've had so far was 360.
That's
and
crazy.
the agent there was saying that it's the cash offers are, everybody thinks about the California money, but he said it's also, he's seeing, at least in that sort of under 500,000 probably range, are REITs just buying them up for rentals, investors.
Right.
Yeah, institutional investors have always been a big presence in Phoenix, and they're getting even more crazy because they see the growth potential. When you see rent rates going up 15 to 20% and appreciation on top of that going up over 10%, yeah, that's why they're buying out here. Even if they basically overpay and they basically break even, in 5 to 10 years, they're making money. So it's a good bet for them, especially if they're representing like pension funds, insurance, life insurance plans. Those are the big buyers right now. They can do 4, 5 caps easy. And single families even now they're getting into, which is crazy. Speaking of overpaying, the biggest thing that people are talking about is waiving appraisal contingency. The issue with that is if you put in a blanket statement that even if it doesn't appraise and the buyer will pay $1,500 above appraisal, what happens when the appraisal comes in low? This happened for someone, came in for $550, was their intended purchase price. Appraisal came in at for $480, $70,000 under. Odd. The buyer claims purchase price is now $495. The seller says, "What are you talking about? We never agreed to that price." Is the seller obligated to close escrow with a $495,000 purchase price? Anybody?
No, that's crazy.
No, they are not. General language inserted into that should govern over the pre-printed language. The buyers would have a case in front of the judge if the sellers had actually agreed that said, yes, this purchase price will be this amount. So rather than saying, here's this last paragraph, language suggesting the buyer is willing to pay or buyer will pay, just put it in full out, how we want to say, right up front, blank language, purchase price shall be above the appraised value X amount or whatever amount that they're willing to go above. That way there's no questions, there's no issues, there's no arguments. That if that's what they agreed to, that's what will happen. Make sense? All right, that was the ADRE tip for the week. Let me get into the tip of the week for us. Reverse prospecting. Anybody know what reverse prospecting is? Oh, no takers. We're being recorded. So the MLS version of that phrase is basically when you go in your listings, you can reverse prospect to find people that are buyers agents that may match what your listing has. What you can do for this is you can find people that, hey, let them know, send out mass emails and say, hey, we just got on the market. Or you can advertise that the open house is coming. If you have, well, these days you don't have very motivated sellers, but The big thing is to advertise price reductions. Nobody's going to advertise price increase, but if for some reason you have to reduce some of the kind of overshot, buyer incentives or agent bonuses, if they come bring the right buyer, probably not going to happen in this market. But the big one is when the listing goes back on market, you want to let all those people know, hey, I think you guys might have looked at this house before. It's coming back on market. Please bring your highest and best. This one is kind of cool. The only drawback with this method is it has to be enabled by the buyer's agent for that contact. You have to go in the settings. You have to say, do I allow reverse prospecting to happen on ARMLS? And then you can get those notices. It's not automatic for whatever reason. The one I want to talk about today is kind of a different and better way, I think. It's kind of a reverse marketing deal. So say your buyers, which are having troubles finding their dream home, which is pretty much every buyer. There's a different kind of technique you can do. It's kind of a win-win-win for everybody. So what you do is you reach out to sellers that may not even be listed or may not know they wanted to sell, or maybe they're worth trying to sell but then canceled or expired or whatever for whatever reason. And basically just approach them and say, hey, I've got a buyer that's really trying to find a home in your area. This matches perfectly for their needs. Would you be interested in, talking about selling your home? The cool thing about this is you have no competition. You'd be the first one there to sell it, to potentially talk to them about selling their home, unlike the ones that are getting listed and getting, 100 people trouncing on it right away. To find these hidden sellers, there's several ways. First one is getting a seller list. Mr. Peacock at Empire West has a really great tool to be able to pull neighborhoods. If you've got places you want to farm, if your buyer is looking in a particular neighborhood for a particular house, he can definitely narrow it down for you with those lists. My favorite one is the direct mail letter. So this is kind of like a prospecting letter. You send it out to everybody in the neighborhood. It even has something that's even close to what the buyer is looking for. This is one I did for one of my buyers. She was having a tough time finding something in exactly the right neighborhood, exactly the right price. This is even before all the craziness. About a couple of years ago, I kind of blanked out her face just to protect her. Should have blanked out the dog's faces too. I didn't think about that. But basically, she put out a little heartfelt letter. I inserted it in the middle of my letter. I just could have given my intro. It says, hey, I have a buyer that's looking in your neighborhood. She'd love to buy yours. Nice, quick, easy way to open it up. And at the very end, just let me know if you're interested in seeing what your house might be worth and if we can make a deal happen. This is nice because if you got a CMA, well, you can blanket CMAs them all day long. Sellers probably aren't going to change their mind because they're probably getting, hit by everybody and their brother in that neighborhood. Text messages are way too short. Postcard wouldn't really have enough space to give out those details. It takes too long to explain over the phone. By the time you get to, hey, I have a buyer that's interested in your home, click, hang up. Reaching out to distressed or forbearance homeowners. This one's my favorite. Unfortunately, like we saw the statistics, not going to happen any soon. The crazy part is, as of April 27th, we have 2.33 million people, or 44% of homeowners, are still in some form of forbearance plan. That's a crazy number. So hopefully sometime in June, this will be relaxed and we can start getting some of that inventory back, but not holding my breath. Solicit a local builder to build your buyer's dream home. This is one that people don't really think about much. There are builders, small builders, especially former fix and flippers that I keep telling them to do this. Just build a small spec home. Any infill lot that they can find, even if it has like a total crapped out house, or it could be a totally empty lot. They can build it to spec, build them their perfect home. No competition again. The only competition is finding that lot if they want to be in a particular area. Not a lot of those lots available at the point around downtown. The other good one is expires and for sale by owners. As we saw, there's not very many people canceling or expiring. Most of them are selling. But there are for sale by owners. There are some people saying, hey, I can put my house on the market. Anybody can sell their house in this market. The problem is, as we all know, if they don't use an agent, they can lose anywhere from, 10, 20% of the value on the home. They don't know the tools. They don't know the area neighborhood. And they don't know that things are constantly changing. If you think you know what your market is today, as of Wednesday, it probably just changed. So Keep on tabs on that. They can make some more money. As this little blurb in the look off corner, people are still making good money off expireds and for sale by owners. Probably not in our market for expireds, but for sale by owners, there's a lot of them. There's ways you can find them on the internet, or contact me and I'll show you how. Rental properties. This is another one most people don't think about. This is kind of your hidden market. There are some tired landlords out there. They've been renting their property, and unfortunately in Phoenix, there are probably not very many that are sitting there on the market for very long. But as you can see from just my quick Zillow grab, this was just 1,435 active non-apartment properties that are for rent in the Phoenix greater metro area. It's a lot of people you want to call them. You can just narrow it down to your neighborhood, hit them up and say, hey, here I am. I see your property's for rent. Looks like a great house. I was just curious, would you be interested in selling it? We can get you top dollar, as is condition, close in a week or two if you have a pre-approved buyer, not pre-qualified, and set up an appointment. It's pretty easy. A lot of people are doing this. Investors are starting to hammer on them. So us agents should too. But that's pretty much it. Final thought was reverse prospecting. There are ways to go around saying, hey, I've got a great buyer. Would you be interested in selling your home? I mean, it's like 2 sentences. That's all you have to do. You could be in and off the phone in like 10 seconds. That was pretty much all I had on that. Anybody have any questions on any of that?
Coming back to forbearances, is there any indication as to whether or not that's going to be extended, or we're going to start to see those coming onto the market?
The Biden administration hasn't commented on it, but before, what was it, April, they were saying they were going to extend it, and now they're not commenting, which means I think they're going to let it go this time. But that's okay. Just from what I've heard from other people. They should have let it go in April, but they didn't. I think they're worried because of that 44% number. That's my guess. They don't want to have a 2008 happen, which won't because we're so short on inventory. 2008 was a totally different animal because people were getting stuff because they could fog a mirror. They were just basically doomed, especially with arms. So,
yeah. And I was hearing too that mortgage companies were basically saying, hey, if you can make a couple of months payments or payments for a couple of months in a row, that they'd be willing to refi.
Yeah, there's 3 options basically that people in foreclosure have, especially after a forbearance. One is the bank can say, act like it never happened. They'll just continue your loan and they paid interest on the balance all the time. Not likely, especially the big banks. They know they can get a better deal. The next one is reworking the loan. God, I'm spacing the term. I've had this conversation 1,000 times, and of course, now that I try and think of it, I can't remember what it's called. But basically, sorry?
A mulligan.
Yeah. So basically, the banks renegotiate the loan. Most of them will say, all right, from this day forward, we're acting like it's another 30-year loan, and they tack all the stuff on the end.
Yeah.
And extend out your loan. They can do that and lower your payments. The other thing they can do is they can just tack on all the extra payments on the tail. The other thing they can do is do a complete refi. That's the third one. The fourth option is, nope, we want all those back payments right now, today. That's where they're basically like, I don't have a year's worth of payments. Well, we're foreclosing. Most of the banks won't be doing that because they probably don't. The government's been, of course, leaning on them. We don't want another 2008. Don't kick people out of their homes. But we'll see. It's totally up to investors in the bank what they want to do. And the banks are generally not friendly to their lendees. So,
10 years ago, there's a lot of short sales. Is that probably going to happen too?
Oh, no. Everybody keeps asking about that too. Like, we're going to have lots of these foreclosures and short sales. I'm like, no. There's a lot of those people have equity in their homes. They're just going to turn around and sell them. So right. That's what everybody's hoping is going to happen. And we could solve our inventory shortage overnight. But all depends on what the government does. Because people are like, well, we're going to have a wave of foreclosures like 2010. I'm like, well, you got to think about it. We've been short for over a year. They've underbuilt for 10 years. So even if we got a big influx of inventory, we probably wouldn't even notice in our market for at least 6 months until the end of the year. Because all that inventory would just be absorbed. People would go out and buy houses. Sellers would be like, oh, crap. We can't, command any crazy dollar figure that we want anymore, and it'd go back to normal. So fingers crossed. Normal is what happens. Any other questions on that? All right. Anybody have any problems or issues or obstacles in their business that we can kind of help you with while we're on the phone? I will sing.